It's been like homecoming for me. It's like, I think Noreen used the right word. When I changed role 8 years ago to the current organization, I don't know what happened. The current organization sucked me like a quicksand, she said, and thinking of it, that's exactly what happened. And coming back, I see some wonderful old faces and some young faces working together. It's amazing. I feel really proud to have been a part of this organization. Wishing you, President, and the team many, many more 50 years. Please take my message to the chapter. I feel, I don't know, I'm lost. I really definitely want to be back. Keep pushing me. And this session, the very thing that I'm standing here, I would credit it to Biju, Shesha, and Mari. I was trying to see how I can wriggle out of this, okay? And Biju never let me out. This has been there for many years. And this time when he called, I said, I'm an old person. I know what kind of people ISACA is made of. Experts across the domains of security and audit and so on and so forth. So this old man, I know I have little less white hairs than Sesha. Yeah, probably in a few years I have more. What is it I can come and convey to you young guys here, Julius? I still don't know. Honestly, I still don't know. And then Hilal, once in a while, keeps coming to the room and keeps reminding me of ISACA. Sometimes I like you, sometimes I don't. But he's also one of the one who's kindling my interest in ISACA. Thank you, Mr. Hilal. It's so nice. And more than an organization, I still enjoy a wonderful relationship with many of my old friends here in the board, here. I could see Anthony here. I could see many of you in the crowd. So I'm sorry I'm taking my time on the presentation, but I feel so excited. So I mean, it's homecoming for me. Yeah. Thank you again, all of you, for inviting me here. Thank you. Now, so what are we talking about? Just before we get into the presentation, I just wanted, this is going to be very light, huh? And then, do we have Dr. Sultan here, who was the presenter early? He just left, Sometimes having charismatic presenters before you can make your life difficult, make your life easy. I'm taking them, I choose to have the second one. Because if you try to reach to their level, then I know I will definitely fail. So this is going to be a very light, simple presentation, so that you know that, okay, this is the last one between you and your evening coffee back at home. So I will not hold you for longer. But this is something which, it's not rocket science. This is not something which I'm a master of. I'm not a guru of identity management, definitely not. When I've been trying to do something with my life, okay, yes, video has been good. I've been having wonderful friends here and have had some good amount of certifications. Why not do this thing called PhD? A lot of my colleagues in video have been doing, what is this PhD? So I said, okay, let me try something new. So I've been researching about these things for the past year or so. So one thing which interested me was this little thing called identity. Yeah? And how little we really recognize and acknowledge the importance of identity in the organizations. Now, we keep talking about a lot of things, basically at malware, we talk of firewalls, we talk of intrusion prevention, and so many things. But at the core of it, there's something, one important thing is data. What are we trying to protect? Is basically the data. Your crown jewel in the organization is data information. And what do you do to access that? Is identity. Right? This has been for many years. And I think doctor was talking about the small chips. Can anyone tell at what age, or rather not at what age of IT I came into IT? Any guess? Hilal, you would like to know when I came into IT? In terms of memory, in terms of how memory used to look like.
Floppy disk?
Okay, floppy disks, okay. What size of floppy disk? How many types of floppy disks we had earlier? I'm sorry, sir? Sorry. No, in terms of the size of the floppy disk.
That square thing.
3.5, 5.25, square thing.
Square thing.
8. Have you ever seen in your life 8-inch floppies? I can see a hand there actually, yes. Yeah. So, doctor, yes. So, doctor, don't. Then people will know that you're as old as me. Please don't tell the truth to the world, yes? So, from those days, I used to be working on Unix machines and so on and so forth. Yes, identity, usernames, all of that has been there. But it is seemingly acquiring more importance as we go along. So, can anyone tell as to why we call identity as the new perimeter? Just be casual. Huh? This is a system class. Huh? This is not a conference or something. Just remove your no, codes and just be casual. Anyone, please. Why do we call identity as a new perimeter? If a couple of answers I get here, then I will walk off the stage. No presentation. That means that all of you know that. Okay, sir. Can, can we have the microphone, please, here? I want you to participate, please.
Yeah. What I said is the identity, now the technology is driving and shaping up your identity, basically. It's no longer the way it used to be presented on a physical and just a documentation like in passport and or ID plastic card. Now it comes with the chips that presenting your identity across the globe. Okay, now if you want to apply for anything, everything goes through that.
Yes, a certificate or a PKI or a private
yes.
key or a public key.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank you. So it's becoming more and more electronic now. Right? So that's a wonderful perspective. I think that's something which we need to, I'm afraid that I wouldn't consider that, but thank you. Basically, what we are talking about here is, this synopsis. Instead of an agenda, I'm sure you look at the synopsis, but here. With the advent of cloud, mobility, and all of that stuff which is around us, which our doctor has been talking about, one thing we have understood that the data and information is seeping out of your organization with or without your knowledge. All of us agree? Right? So, plus, while we do that, in fact, as long as you are within your organization, we'll look at that in the next slide. All you do is you go plug in your laptop, you go plug in your desktop, access your SAP systems, access your Oracle systems, do your business transactions, come home, and that's it. Not anymore, because your information or your organization's information is available out there in the cloud, and then now you're able to access it by various devices. It could be as simple as your mobile phones, your iPads, and so on and so forth. And now to make it even more confusing, we have the Internet of Things and so on and so forth. So, more than organizations can realize at this point in time, there's so much of information about them directly and indirectly available on the Internet, on the cloud, in the public networks, basically, which is available to you as an authorized user and also probably unauthorized users. So, the importance of actually enhancing, or rather improving your visibility to what users are doing and ensuring that they have the right access to the right information at the right time is becoming even more difficult because information is not available within the four walls of the organization. It's becoming really difficult. So what we're going to do in the next 15-20 minutes is to see what do organizations need to do, because now we're talking of 4IR, and you spoke about, in fact, the video what Dr. Sultan was showing about the Google, it's even more worrying. In fact, we had an occasion where one more thing I really want to make a disclaimer here. Anything what I'm discussing about doesn't have a direct relevance to the current organization where I'm working on or the previous organizations. It's very generic. I've kind of credited all the information what I've taken from the different sources, so it's nothing specific. So in a specific organization, someone wanted to be really, really, forthcoming when it comes to digitalization. They wanted to think, okay, I'm going to give my MD an Alexa. So every morning, the MD comes in and says, Alexa, tell me the production today. Okay, we have produced 500,000 phones and 20,000, whatever it is what Alexa comes back and says. So they went and really wrote a little architecture, and then probably they kind of got it into real life, and then MD was literally thrilled. So I had the opportunity to look at it, and I said, thank you so much, gentlemen. Without or with your knowledge, you are revealing so much about your organization to the cloud. They said, why? No, prove me. Then I just had to tell them basically one thing. There were quite a few cases basically when it came to Alexa, how Alexa helped solve murder cases. Any idea how it would happen? Because there have been, as he rightly said, Dr. Sultan said, not only Google, anything and any listening device you bring into the organization, in your home, it keeps listening to you continuously, and every single bit of what you say is actually stored and not erased for life. And as he rightly said, in fact, that can be analyzed to identify what's happening around you and your family, and then to at what time you come home and what time you leave, what time you committed a crime at home and what time you do something good at home, and so on and so forth. Right? So the same thing, what we discussed about home is same thing applies to organizations as well. So much of data, information in different forms is leaving the organization. It was a so nice life when I was young. Okay, I really pity you guys. We just had internet connected somewhere in 1990s when I finished my master's in UK and came. I was given a job and in the ISP. Can you believe that I set up an ISP infrastructure one man? It was so easy. Something like this. Okay, all you had was a firewall. You had a perimeter network and just an internal firewall. Sometimes some organizations didn't have as well. And the internal network, the data actually many a times what happened. You don't. Bear with me. Okay, I was trying to show something. Anyway, so there was very simple. The networks were simple. Life was simple. Not anymore. Unfortunately, it was very, all you had in the firewall was, you had, can you show me how to, the pointer? No, the pointer. The pointer is this. Okay. See, technology. I'm old. So it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work on the TV. Yeah, it doesn't work on the TV actually, yes, don't worry. So you had external access, which is untrusted. Basically anything which is outside the organization was fully untrusted. Anything which is inside is trusted. Any machine can talk to any machine, any server can talk to any server, and absolutely no segmentation of sorts. So that's what it basically was very easy. We never thought that someone could something called a malicious malware or something could come and start impacting us. Very limited or absence of network segmentation. But at one point of the time, then we realized even internally, insert access can be malicious. It could be wantedly done act, basically, or something which you didn't know that your identity was being used by someone else. But there have been cases where it could be a machine, it could be yourself, insider access turned to be malicious. Stolen credentials can be used to cause significant impact to confidentiality, integrity, and availability. This was a realization which came later. Let's walk through what we call as a phishing attack. Incidentally, just about a few minutes ago, one of my friends, Hilal, walked to me and then he showed me something interesting. In fact, how he was being subject to a... Employees get targeted via phishing mails, right? All of us. Any one of us here can safely say, I've never received a phishing mail. Show of hands, please. Definitely not. What happens is, once you open up a phishing mail, somehow some malware gets opened, and then your desktop or laptop is compromised. Then the attacker actually literally sits on your machine, uses your identity, credentials, and then he moves across the network. There's no segmentation of any sort. Then he actually finds he or she. Why is always attacked called as a he? Can I also call her a she as well? Okay, he or she escaping right now. So identifies a privileged workstation, and then the local workstation, he installs a keylogger, looks for credentials of a developer, again identity, and using that application server is compromised. Developer password used to elevate himself or herself on the application server. Now there you have this something called service accounts, and these service accounts basically again are used to steal application. So as you walk through the whole life cycle of an attack here, what comes out very clearly is the interest is on two things. Simple. The final interest is on the data which is sitting here, the crown jewel. And the second one is to reach that, they have actually, or he or she is looking for identities, right? So a phishing attack is an identity attack. So this is something which even in a normal enterprise network, identities are important. Let's move on to the new world. We had a wonderful presentation earlier about Internet of Things, and, smart buildings. We spoke about smart logistics, Internet of Services. There's so much happening around us. Data is flowing all over the place. In fact, the data is the new oil, they say. I'm not sure who has the most of it now, apart from Google and the likes of Apple. So data is all over the place. Along with it, identity is also all over the place. Cloud. I'm going to discuss something in the next slide. I just want someone to help me define the word shadow IT. Please, I don't know. Vishal, can you help me? What is shadow IT? Thank you, Vishal. Who else can be better than to say this, define this? I'm sure. This is something all of us know, actually. Shadow IT is there to stay. It's very difficult to kind of combat because it's not something happening outside the organization, because it's the enemy within, an enemy in the right sense, don't get me wrong. What happens is the finance director actually finds our friend in the flight next to him, and he says, okay, you know what? I'm using a wonderful cloud-based dashboard application. And he shows him basically, okay, these are the colorful charts and blah, 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 blah. And the finance director comes back to the organization and he says, okay, dear clerk, get me the credit card of the organization, whatever it is, I'm going to subscribe to it. And the most importantly, neither the CIO or the CISO has any indication of it or any inclination of it. Right? All of us agree? If any of you disagree, please let me know. I would like to know. Do all of us have shadow ITs in our organizations? Yes, sirs? Yes. Okay. Why? Because there's so much of wealth of different services there. So there's no way it's attracting you. It's making it easier. In fact, going and sitting with the IT guy, writing a demand for it, putting together a business case for it, and then go, then identify budget, and then you go buy new servers, and then the server guy says it will take 10 days to deliver or 10 months to deliver. It's such a tedious process. I just go down to any of the SaaS applications, a CRM application, whatever it is, and within a minute, I subscribe to it, and here it is. Voila, I'm there on the web, and then I can see things happening. Why would they come to you? Ask the security CISO or the CIO. It's so simple. And this is going to be a menace. This is not going to end. Right? All of us agree on that? Right? Okay. And this is going, and then along with it, it's going, I mean, if someone writes an application for you within the organization, the security guy will say, you know what, this is sensitive information, I cannot allow this to be the internet, I will allow this only to a desktop owned by the organization. But you go there, you can take it and show it to your wife, you know what, I have a wonderful application. You can say to your child, you know what, I have a wonderful application I'm using. Because all of these applications are so beautifully written there, it is all anywhere, anytime access. So you don't realize that your organizational data is sitting somewhere else, and it's all that you've been looking at convenience, you've been looking at speed of delivery, but not realizing that someone else is also having a view on it. Now, from an identity standpoint, I'm not discussing anything else. I'm a shadow IT, probably Vishal knows better. In fact, can land you in different problems, different troubles. But remember, this is an identity discussion. So, one of the main issues is that anyone has ever gone to the finance department, and if in case you ask them, okay, are you using a cloud-based application? If they are honest, they will tell you yes, right? But what kind of user identities they're using there? Any idea? Do they use the same credentials, username and credentials, what they actually have it in your internal organization? 90% not. Right, Raj? 90% not. Why should I? Because I don't want to, I want to hide this from the IT. Why should I go and tell them actually? So, inability to maintain a single ID, single credential. So, once you don't maintain a single ID, the second thing comes up. The lack of central visibility of all your accounts. You don't know who's accessing what, for what, right? And how long. Easy siphoning of some information. You really don't know, okay? So that makes it, also, in many times, you as a security auditor or a security, someone who's responsible for security officer here in the organization, you absolutely have no idea what information has gone out, what classification has gone out. You might have a wonderful identity access management system in the organization in terms of provisioning, in terms of deprovisioning accounts. You would actually set up privileges based on sensitivity. Do you feel all of that will be there? Of course not. And as auditors, I'm not sure, I'm sure you will be questioning it. Maybe these are things you need to really have it in mind, because these identities are absolutely out of your control. But they're accessing even more information which is quite sensitive and probably more interesting for outsiders. So, naturally, anything with the cloud, lack of provisioning and deprovisioning controls and access policies, you cannot, many a times, you might have a wonderful access policy in your organization, right? Mari, what is your password strength in Oman Cements? Only 8? Okay, 8, right, okay. So, anyone wants to hack, Mari has given away something. I know, but again, okay, but yes, but I'm sure you will be strengthening it. Okay, you might say my password strength is 8 characters, a mix of both upper and lower cases, and you would have actually blacklisted some passwords. You would not want someone to have Oman or a Muscat or a Al Khawair or something, and so on and so forth. So you have probably invested time and efforts in terms of strengthening your policies. Do you feel the cloud guy would have spent the same amount of time? For them, it's ease of use, because, and probably yes, they will do, but the requirement has to go from you as an organization. But in this case, the requirement for ease of use, the finance department or HR department, they just went for ease of use. So you don't know, right? And I just want to share a story. This is not something which was shared from. There was a cloud application, and one of the security guys somehow found out in a company, and he said that, okay, this is a sensitive information, fine, you guys have gone to the cloud, dear finance department, we can't stop you, right? So please, can you ask your cloud service providers to implement multi-factor authentication? Okay, so no problem, we will implement it within 10 days. Okay, no problem, but what kind of a multi-factor? No, I need to go back to my architects and come back and do it. After 10 days, they implemented a multi-factor authentication. Any idea what multi-factor authentication they would have implemented? This is real, I'm telling you, not to ridicule anyone, this is real. They said we have implemented CAPTCHA. CAPTCHA is the multi-factor authentication. Unbelievable. And this is true. And this is exactly what happened. I'm just trying to share stories from real life. Absolutely. Okay, what else can you implement? No problem, so we'll remove CAPTCHA, and now we have reCAPTCHA. Because there you don't need to put in there, I just need to go, Google gives me the reCAPTCHA thing, I just go to click that. So probably it's a stronger one. My friend, this is not multi-factor authentication. No, sir. And in fact, there's a challenges going on between the company and the provider, and the finance guy sitting in between, he's tired. He's actually not worried about the security issues. He's actually only saying the security guys are making your blockers. I was actually using it so happily, and now you're coming and talking about it. But yes, we had to have multiple sessions with the person actually as a consultant, and I had to tell them that, gentlemen, this is the reason why I was saying, be careful, at least consult us before you go online. So, again, someone please time me. I'm so poor in timekeeping. Okay, I'll probably in terms of geographical. I mean, if in case you have a local network, at least these days in modern networks, you can actually, in terms of classification, you can implement classification. You can implement things like rights management. You can control data access from specific IP addresses, don't you? I'm sure yes. Many of organizations, if it is a confidential or a very top secret information, you would definitely want to make sure that only specific IPs will be able to have access to it. In cloud, they can do as well, but in plain vanilla implementations, they don't. Yeah, and many a times, it has been proven time and again that their cloud providers, cloud service providers, at whatever level it is, it's a PaaS level or a SaaS or IaaS, many a times in certain countries, they have a kind of an agreement with the local government that they will be giving away information when it's being asked to, without even being the customer being informed. Right, on one side. The other side, the European guys come and say, oh, no, you know what? GDPR is there, so you need to be very careful about it. But if the finance or HR has gone ahead and subscribed to a solution without your knowledge, how do you expect you to look for GDPR? What kind of an assessment you would have done? Right? Think about it. To make it even more worse, the proliferation we spoke about. You've taken your information to the cloud, problem number one. Number two, now anyone, anywhere, anytime can access. He could be good, he could be bad, but he has access. Right? And this is interesting. The desktop access, the number of desktops accessing information is falling, and versus mobile, in fact, they've reached kind of a spot wherein, okay, most of the information on the cloud these days, it's not being accessed by desktops, more of mobiles. So that makes it even easier. You don't need to sit and log into your computer at home. No, you can just come here, and as probably if Bala is boring, probably you may be actually accessing some of your applications as well. So that makes identity even more interesting. Some of the mobile threats. This is very contextual or probably current. 86% of enterprise executives, I don't know what do they mean by enterprise executives. Maybe they spoke to people like us here. They said mobile threats are growing faster than any other threat. But go and try telling this to the MD or a CEO of the organization, he will rubbish it. Right? For me, convenience is important. Mobile devices are hackers' favorite platform. And you have seen that happening. Yeah? The number of malware which has been installed in the Play stores and so on and so forth, in the quarter one of 2019, can you believe, is 905,000. And 5.3 million basically in 2018. I think Statistica is one of the same references what Dr. Sultan was talking about. 38% of mobile devices introduce unnecessary risk to the organization, okay, as per Mobile Alliance. And adding to that, I can go on and go on. I removed many of the references for want of time. One simple thing. Many of us have configured, I just gave my phone to Sesha anyway, it's locked, configured our emails on our mobile phones, right? Most of us, right? What kind of security have you configured? I'm sure there will be different level of security. How many have configured a multi-factor authentication or something when you try to access your mail? Right? I don't want an answer, please. No. There are definitely someone use things like mobile device management or something. I will discuss more as we go on. But mostly, we use the native email client. Right? And we just use our many of us sometimes don't have even the numbers to be typed in, basically, the PIN to be given, rather, okay? It's there, and I've seen many cases, just you press the button there and then touch the home screen, there you see the corporate mail is sitting there in front of you, right? Okay, fine, but the most important thing, so you're exposing corporate information to your friends, probably who's not supposed to be looking at it, probably family as well. But many times I've seen people selling their phones without removing any of the content in the phones out of excitement, or giving it away to the children. And can anyone deny this? So who is actually at risk now? Probably yes, your privacy at risk, no doubt. You have your photos there, you have your personal information there. Along with it, the data or information of the organization you're working for is at risk. So this is something which is a hygiene we need to follow. Yeah? But in the lack of a proper identity challenges, these things actually is going to be haunting organizations. Now, so we've been discussing of problems. Sometimes discussing of problems it makes you tired. I'm sure there'll be a solution for it, right? So this is something which Forrester has been talking about, Gartner has been talking about, and NIST has recently started talking about this thing called zero trust architecture. This may not be the complete solution. This is probably the right step in the direction in the current era of cloud and mobile, right? Fine, let's see how it helps. The zero trust architecture has certain concepts and there's a roadmap. It says all resources are accessed in a secure manner regardless of the location. Okay, look at the word location. In the sense that it could be the data or resource or service could be either residing in your organization, or it could be in the cloud, or it could be in the mobile, or it could be anywhere. They are accessed in a secure manner, minimal. That's the principle number one, or the tenet number one, or the concept number one, which we call it. Access control is on a need-to-know basis and is strictly enforced. And many times, this is the problem we have as security auditors, as security officers. Many times they say that, why are you trying to set up an access control for this? This is so easy, everyone knows this. But at least the zero trust tenet doesn't allow you to do that. Verify, 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 and never trust. We'll discuss more about it as we go on. Inspect and log all traffic accessing your crown jewels. The network is designed from the inside out. Any idea what this means? Network is designed from the inside out. What? Okay, let me try. I may not be accurate, but this is, I tried Googling for it and it gave me different perspectives. But at least at a larger scale, at a bigger picture, all the while we've been discussing about the old traditional perimeter model where, okay, it's stronger, you have an excellent firewall, it's all fine, but the moment you enter into the network, it's like a soft, M&Ms they call it as. It's quite hard outside and it's quite soft inside. But whereas this says that no, try and control every single resource at its source, meaning it be an endpoint, protected. It's a server, protected. You have firewalls and whatever it is, yeah? So that way, you will not, even if someone actually is able to compromise a server or a resource, at least the others are protected. So this is the tenet, zero trust architecture. Any questions here? Probably we'll have some time later. So that is the principles. A zero trust architecture abolishes the idea of a trusted network inside a defined or a definite corporate network. We always thought once you enter the corporate network, once you put in your laptop and you're safe, you're being protected, and you can access any resource and any resource can access you and so on and so forth. Not anymore. Because zero trust says don't. It says, number one, identify your sensitive data. We spoke about it. That's your crown jewel. That's what people want to have. You saw that they were actually paying very high for a health information, right? Once you know where the sensitive data is, map the flow of the sensitive data, and architect microperimeters. When they talk of microperimeters, they mean both. In terms of network perimeters, network segmentations, and in terms of identity perimeters. We look at it. Yeah? Continuously monitor your system, because monitoring has become important than ever in the past. Because it's the network is very noisy, so much is happening beneath the ground and you don't know. So monitoring becomes very, very important. And security automation and orchestration, we will look at it because we're going to be just in a very few slides, for a couple of slides, we'll discuss about Google's Beyond Corp, how they're doing it in terms of the orchestration. This is basically from Cisco, and as I said earlier, the term zero trust architecture was coined by Forrester and one of the consultants working there. And in 2018, they went and actually they improvised it, and now they call it a zero trust extended ecosystem framework. And they talk about 4 things: zero trust people, zero trust devices. So when actually you're trying to look at identity, it's not about the identity of an individual, identity of the devices as well. Zero trust networks and zero trust workloads. When they say workloads here, it's a term many of you in the data centers would understand better than me. It talks about the services, the servers, and so on and so forth. So zero trust, anything for that matter. At least these 4 actually fulfill. And many of the vendors here, I'm sure some of them are here, and they are actually working very hard, and they have point solutions. Some of them are working about helping you with zero trusting people. Some of them are working with zero trust devices. I'm sure many of your organizations might have this thing called Cisco NAC, right? Network Admission Control, and so on and so forth. And let's look at it more. So at least the minimal thing they said when you say zero trust framework about people, devices, workforce. And again, it comes back to say, please ensure your security teams have enough visibility of what's happening inside. Look for anomalies, and that's going to be really interesting. What Gartner has done is taken that and then probably worked it up and has coined a new term, which says continuous, it's mouthful, right? Continuous adaptive risk and trust assessment. Again, if you see, the new thing is called trust assessment. Again, what does trust mean? It's about identity. We always discussed about risk assessment in the past. I don't think anyone has discussed about trust assessment. It acquires importance in the current context of identity. Many times, I don't know, auditors help me here. Do you audit applications once in a while? No? Okay, who audits applications here? Anyone here? Okay, fine. Okay, what kind of an assessment do you do when actually you do applications, when it comes to access controls, access privileges? Okay, Jaco, thank you. Okay, okay, okay. Agreed, but many a times what happens basically, I've seen auditors come in, thanks Josh, thank you. I mean, understand, that's the premise of the whole thing. But many a times what happens is, we come and auditors, look, that's the max we can do so now, right? Because you're not looking for, asking me whether I'm monitoring an access, monitoring a user, no. You just come and ask me, can you give me your list of users? And then you ask me to open my Active Directory or something, and then you compare, oh yes, fine. Okay, can you give me the last person who left the organization? Yes, here it is, Joe's. Oh yes, okay, yes. Have you removed it? Yes, I've removed it. Right? Many a times, but that's not all. But that's the max we could do, because audit is a sampling exercise, right? But what they're doing now is basically they're trying to ask internal line of defense, they call internal assessments, to focus on trust. Trust assessment is something which Gartner is promoting, and they call it CARTA. CARTA is an improvised model as per Gartner of the Forrester's zero trust architecture, right? And what they're talking about, I think we'll be discussing it, context and credential assessment, and looking at some of the adaptive authentication mechanisms. We'll look at it as in the next screens. So far, so good? Okay. This is what Gartner says. There will be more users outside of the enterprise accessing services than inside. All of us agree that? When they say that, it relates to the data what you are holding within the organization. It relates to the data which is in the cloud, both. Right? These days, it's all about allowing contractors to access your information. It's about trust, right? It's allowing partners to have access to your information. So basically, it could be like, I don't know, maybe one day Bank Muscat may allow banks, Sohar Bank to access information if need. So I don't know, there could be, if there's a business case, they need it. That's what business wants, right? So this is actually a very truthful statement. There will be more users outside of the enterprise accessing services than inside. It's going to be increasing. Specifically users. If you're actually having, let's take a bank. In fact, probably a Bank Muscat may have 10,000 internal users, for example, right away. But how many millions possibly in terms of customers, right? But when you say identity, you're not managing identities of only your employees. You're managing identity of your customers as well. Customers will have more unmanaged devices connecting to services than managed devices. True. You can't go and tell Bala, who's Bank Muscat customer, saying that you will have to access your account only. Yes, to a certain extent I've seen that. They say, please have the latest version of iOS. But that's something which I've seen that. But there's a limit to which you can enforce the security hygiene of your customer. Security should always begin with zero trust. So Gartner says, okay, yes, I agree, Forrester is right. Access should be based on context. For example, the identity of the user, the device being used, etc. We'll look at it more. Monitoring should be an ongoing basis. It's a repetition of what they said. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to go deeply into it. These are the different imperatives basically Gartner again talks about in terms of implementing zero trust. It talks about having a full stack risk visibility, again user analytics, again adaptive programmable systems, and data-driven risk making. So all of that talk about two things only. Ensure that you know where your data resides, you know what is sensitive data, and you know who are accessing the data, at what time, from which geography, and so on and so forth. Okay, this is what I was talking about. NIST, for that matter, also is trying to embrace the zero trust architecture. We still have a draft which was released a couple of months ago. Again, this is the principles what NIST talks about. All data sources and computing services are considered resources. All communication is secure regardless, is insecure regardless of network. Basically, okay, insecure, but you need to make it secure. Yeah, probably yes. Okay, access to individual resources should be granted on a per connection basis. This is most important. Access to resources is determined by policy, including the observable state of user identity and the requesting system, and may include behavior attributes. So two things, let's look at it. When I say behavior attributes and the hygiene, again, all of these standards are talking about specifically two things. We're talking about identity, or identity of the user, we'll talk about it, identity of the device. When I say identity of the device, please make sure, at least within the enterprise, please make sure you have the latest patches. Please make sure you have the latest antivirus solution. Please make sure you have probably some kind of whitelisting or blacklisting in place. Or in other words, make sure you have the device which you are trying to access data is probably secured to a certain level. This is something what we also call network access controls. Yeah? That is also ensuring the quality of the security of the device. Second, users, we'll discuss more later. Okay? So irrespective of whatever it is, treat them as entities, and each entity has an identity and with some specific attributes. This is what some of the, I forgot where I got it from, and look for user behavior. We'll look at user behavior. This is a different, or rather a same message, probably in a different graphic. You have something, you are requested or advised to implement something called adaptive authentication. Verify who is it. It could be a user, it could be a device, it could be an API, and contextualize the request which is coming from there, and walk it through a secure admin environment, and always grant least privilege. I'm just going to pause for a half minute here because I really want to understand from you guys. what do we mean by contextualizing the request from the requester? Anyone, please help me. What do we do normally in implementing an access management system? Someone actually wants an access. It goes through a request process. Maybe it's a workflow. It's a manual process. Basically, okay, you just create a user account for him and you forget about it, right? All that you know is that, okay, this user is at least changing his password once in 30 days, 35 days, and this means that he's alive. He's still a bona fide user of my data, so I allow him. But what do they mean by contextualize the request?
The user using a data in an environment, that's contextual, right?
Sorry, Nureen, come again. I think you are nearer, please.
In what context the data he's been using in the past history?
Okay, you want to try something else? That is one way of looking at it. So make sure that role-based access is, so you assign defined roles and then you actually take a user assigned to a specific roles, and then when you define the applications roles, so that this guy, Bala, okay, being a security guy, he has access to the SAP system only to this level. Probably someone, an administrator has a different level. That's one way of looking at it.
That's internal. Yeah, you can do that for internal things, right?
Internal, yes.
To the external user, how can you contextualize it?
You need to. That's what they're saying. So now, that's what the tenet of zero trust is. You will not differentiate the level of access when, kind of the control, access controls for that matter, whether the information is here in your enterprise or outside. You should have a similar, if not stronger access controls when you actually have information outside.
It will be very difficult.
It is, but that's where we have some solutions coming in actually, yes. In fact, to the extent that, thanks Vishal, basically role-based is one. Sorry, Biju, please. How many minutes do you have? 5 minutes, okay, I'll try to finish it off, yeah. So, now basically we're saying go to the extent of even ensuring that when you define access, the access is specific on the cloud, make sure that the access is coming from a specific geography, not for a different geography. You can even go and ask your cloud service provider saying that, dear cloud service provider, all my users are within Muscat. So make sure that, yes, I've given you you're actually providing me the service, so make sure that only customers from Muscat are accessing this. You can have a time box around it. Make sure that, okay, my users will be accessing this information between 8 to 5 p.m. in the evening. You know, most of these service providers do have these facilities, but natural that they don't want to discuss with you. So many times your data is now open for anyone, anytime, from anywhere. All of this can be boxed, can be constrained. This is what the message I'm trying to give you, right?
Amazon has also done.
I'm sorry?
Amazon has done.
Many companies, many of them, many. In fact, we can do. Many of the identity solution companies, they actually provide you that actually. Yeah? We can discuss more as we go along. Okay, and this is another representation. So we've discussed this. We'll probably in the next slide, we'll quickly go through it. So now, just last 2 slides, and probably one more on the, 2 more on the Gartner. Again, it all comes back to people, process, and technology. Get business and IT to work together to identify your crown jewels. Dear business, please tell us what shadow ITs have you subscribed to. We have to, because we need to protect your information, it's not our information. Let's sit together. It could be within the enterprise, outside. Create awareness among business leaders about challenges related to identity and access management, because many times they don't do it, they don't want to do it, because it's the ease of doing a business, the convenience what comes first. The access challenges may not come to their mind. And it's quite audacious to say, I don't know if, let security teams be in charge of access control. They'll do a better job. One of the things, maybe next time auditors, you go and ask them, why are the hosting departments managing access control? You have a wonderful security team under Vishal, let them take control. Right? In fact, you will have a better environment. Yeah, because apply tight coupling of identity and data ownership, apply the least privilege and need-based access principles, and we spoke about RBAC from a process standpoint. From a technology standpoint, consider identity as a perimeter, verify the device, verify the user, please. prevent lateral movement of user access. Suppose if a user is allowed to access a service, I'll constrain him there. Or, okay, just-in-time privilege access. Specifically, this applies to privilege access management. These days, many of the system administrators, what happens is, when they have a system admin username and password, they can actually do it from home, do it locally at any point of a time. There's no constraint at all. In fact, there are privilege access management solutions which you can go and implement and make sure that you can provide him or her access the time she requires or he requires, time box it, probably do a session recording so that you can roll back something at later point of time. Biometric is becoming popular these days. Windows Hello is getting popular these days. Where possible, reduce or eliminate passwords. This is a very important piece of advice. Okay, look for abnormalities, look for anomalies. Where, suppose if Bala's access is coming to the enterprise from Russia, at the same time it's also coming from India, at the same time it's coming from Muscat, it's definitely something wrong, right? Look for that kind of context information, yeah. Integrate thread feeds for correlation. This is something which easy said than done, because these days you can actually go to the dark web or you can buy from companies some leaked credentials. I'm sure in all of the organization there are people whose credentials have been leaked, and this is available there. You can go and buy the database, implement it in your organization, and then when you can actually, if you see one or two who are featuring in that list, you can ask them to, you can advise them to strengthen their credentials. Okay, identity federation is something which maybe later on we can, in terms of two organizations talking to each other, we can probably implement that. Identity as service, CASB, unfortunately we can discuss more. This is one of the quick introduction to Google's BeyondCorp. We'll skip this, we'll go to the next slide, where they kind of, one of the first to implement in real time, in real life, I would say, the zero trust architecture. And it's quite a complex one, and they've done a lot of orchestration around it, yeah. So, in terms of, they speak about things like trust inferers, wherein, okay, you get information about the trust of a person or a device from different sources, and the policy is what you set in the here, and all of that together help you or your access control engine make a decision, and all the accesses don't go directly to the resources. There's always a gateway, have an access gateway, so you can protect it, you can have better policies, rather than only doing it on the resources, and then treat every of the final ones as resources. So that's basically what it says. Resources are application services infrastructures. The trust inferer is a system that continuously analyzes and annotates a device state. So the device actually assumes a lot of importance. Yeah? The access policy is what you as an organization put in place. The control engine takes information from the inferer and the policy and then applies through the control engine. At any point of a time, make sure you have a clear device inventory status, and then make sure that all the gateways are accessed through, all the resources are accessed through gateways. Yeah. So the last slide is this. I don't endorse this. Sorry, sir. Because all of you are security guys, and I am supposed to be a security guy, and that's what I look at. And then me promoting cloud is the last thing you want me to do. But you like it or not, thank you, Sesha, you like it or not, cloud is the data center. The business is moving towards it. We are moving towards it at a personal level. Internet is the network. And when internet is the network, you cannot go and put a firewall in all the data centers. You'll have to trust them. But all you can do is ensure that your identity serves as the new perimeter, and you bring processes and technologies around it to make sure that, yes, my identity is used to access the right information at the right sensitivity at the right time. That's basically what we can do. Thank you.